Hi and welcome to this video. Okay, today we are going into Derbyshire and high up into the Pennines to visit Peveril Castle. So let's go and take a look. So driving there wasn't too bad. We came from the Cheshire side, so we had to drive through Stockport to get there, and that took us a lot longer than we thought actually. So don't underestimate the traffic when you're actually trying to get there, and it was a particularly busy day. Even though it was in January, it was actually quite busy, but we went through lots of picturesque scenery and lots of hills up and down, smallish roads, but there were some bigger roads too, so it wasn't too bad. It was quite a pleasant drive aside from the traffic. Castleton in Derbyshire, UK, which is where the castle is located up on the hill, was packed. It was really busy, and for a January day we were actually really surprised. There was a lot of people there looking around, and we started off just by wandering around the village because it's actually really cute. As you can see, lots of little shops to go and visit, lots of little walks you can take, and all around Castleton there are caves and things to explore, which we didn't get time to do, but we are going to go back and take a look at these places, and I'll show you one at the end where we went to have a look. We went to the entrance and it's got a funny name, so yeah, we'll show you that. So once we looked around the village, we started to make our way towards the castle, and you can see it right there up on the hill. But we kind of went the wrong way. We missed the turning where we had to go to the castle, into the sort of like a little store, into the kiosk where you pay to go and see the castle, and went past it, and we ended up walking up this kind of hiking trail, which was pretty cool actually, because we got to see the castle from the outside looking up. It was a bit of a Game of Thrones moment, because we kind of saw this castle up on this sort of rock, and you can see it here, but it's from the outside, not from inside where the castle was. But actually getting in there was a bit weird, because we had to go between some houses, and then it was a proper footpath, but it was kind of hidden. But we were following some instructions, but the instructions were wrong. So you can see we walked all the way up this path, or this hiking trail, and when you get this far, you can look back and you can see the castle up on the hill, which was like a really awesome view actually. So I'm glad we did it, but we had to travel all the way back down, back into the town, and go the way that we should have gone to get to the entrance where the kiosk is to pay to actually enter the castle. And that's what we did. So the castle was founded in 1066 by William Peveril, hence the name of the castle, and it has survived right up until this day. It was founded just after the Norman conquest, which was the invasion of the Normans from Normandy, from France, into England, because the Duke of Normandy, later called William the Conqueror because of what he achieved, claimed the English throne, which was derived from a relationship he had with an Anglo-Saxon king, Edward the Confessor. So it's all a bit complex, but if you want to go and learn more about that, you can go and check out the Norman Conquest, and you'll see information about that. But this castle was established around that time, and it is a Norman castle, which is interesting in itself. This, what you're seeing, is a model which you can see just as you go inside the castle grounds of what they believed it looked like. Now, it didn't start off looking like this right from the offset. It was built up over time. So even though the castle was founded in 1066, the keep, which is the tall building on the end, the main part that's still standing today, was built in around 1175-ish or thereabouts. So it took a couple of years, I believe, and it was dubbed the Great Tower. And you can see there was a little village, or a little homestead, if you like, across the other side of the gorge there, which we'll talk about a bit more as we get up to the top of the castle and we can have a look. Because a bridge was built across to it from the castle grounds, which was fascinating for the time. And when you see the drop and how high up it is, it's quite a feat of engineering for the time. The castle was also nicknamed Castle of the Peak, and obviously as we're in the Peak District, which is a sort of the backbone of the UK, if you like, that goes up the centre, it kind of makes sense that it was called Castle of the Peak, although there's a lot more castles in the area. That's what it was tagged, Castle of the Peak. Okay, so once we looked through the initial parts, we started to make our way up the path, and this path doesn't look that steep in the video, but it is quite a trek because it kind of zigzags up the hill, and there's like a step every 2 or 3 steps is a step you're going to go up, and actually it was quite exhausting. Even we found it quite of a struggle. So if you have problems climbing and walking up steep slopes, you can sort of see how steep it is there. Even though we're going side along the slope, it can be quite a trek. And as you get higher, you get a really good view of Castleford down below and the surrounding countryside, which was very cool. It doesn't take long to get up there, about 15 minutes or so. Just take your time and breathe as you go, because like I say, it's a bit of a trek. We stopped once halfway up, sat down and looked at the view, and as you get to the top, you get to see where the East Gate once stood. So this is the remainder of the East Gate right here, and not much left of it now, but you can get a sense of what it used to look like. If we look at the model down below and compare it to this, you can see, you get a picture of what it was like. You can see a bit of the arch that's still left there. It would have arched all the way over, and there would have been a gate here, and you'd have gone through the gate, and it would have obviously been a lot more spectacular. But unfortunately it's not there anymore, but it's still pretty cool to see it like this. It's you get a real sense that what it used to be like. It's kind of a weird feeling when you come to these places. And that's the keep on the far side there, but we're going to walk around the bottom, have a look at some of the old buildings, and then we're going to make our way into that a bit later. So just to be clear, this castle was not really a defensive castle. It was really built for the resources all around it. So it was really good for hunting in the area. They used to hunt here a lot, and it was great for lead mining. There's a lot of caves in the area, of which one you'll see a bit later. But and they used to mine lead from those caves, which was used a lot. And that wall along the front there is the curtain wall, what they call the curtain wall. Now, as we move down here, there was kitchens and a new hall, and you can see this is right at the end there. There was a fireplace, and this part of it was built in the 13th century, in the 1200s at some point. And you can still see the foundation of it and where it used to be, which is along with all the moles that are currently living there. But there used to be a kitchen here. I believe I'm standing in the kitchen now, and then just inside it used to be a hall. At the end here, you can see there, that's where the fireplace used to be. And this in the corner here used to be another way in, the West Range they called it, another way into the castle, which would come in behind the new hall. I mean, the stonework is amazing. It's still there. It looks like it's been repaired over time. There's some different stones here, and I read some documentation that said some of the bricks that are currently in the wall weren't there originally, but were put there later just to support it. It's been sort of fixed up and propped up for over 1,000 years, so a lot of it is sort of like almost bits and pieces just to stop it from falling down. And the outer skin of it, of the main wall, which you'll see on the keep in a moment, has been taken away, and in the middle of that you can see the sort of rubbly stone that made up the guts of the walls sort of remains. That's the gorge down there. It's a big slice of rock cut out of the landscape. It's called the Peak Cavern Gorge. See, as we make our way up here, you can see on the right hand side here, this used to be a latrine. And you can see across the top there used to be a board with a hole in it, and they used to sit on that, do their business, and it used to drop down into the gorge and just get washed away with the weather. Along this wall there were a series of private chambers, and that's why there's a latrine here. That it wasn't just out in the open like it is today. It was actually inside a small, a small building. And up here, up the top, is where the bridge went across to the other side of the gorge. So you can see from this model that they created, there were some dwellings across the way, across the gorge, and they had a bridge, which they found bits of evidence of, I believe, but there's obviously nothing there today. So this was the keep, and you can see, which is interesting, is the fascia bricks, stone, has been robbed, and they literally say it was stolen, a lot of it. Some of it fell off, but most of it was stolen and probably used around the village, like most castles we see that are ruined. People steal the stone and use it for something else, but you know, leaving this rubbly look. And some of it you can see is different colour, so it's been used to so it's been repaired and propped up in lots of different places, and you can see the outer skin still left in places, patches, if you like, all over the walls there and around the base in some parts. And there would have been like a stairwell going up. I mean, this has obviously been put here, this concrete spiral staircase, so that guests, so that visitors can go in and have a look at it. But there would have been some steps up the side going around the corner. This is where we were earlier when we were down below looking up in the gorge, when we took the wrong turn, and it's quite a long way down. So you can see why they built this thing up high like this. I just really don't like heights, so I didn't get too close. Amazing views though from here. If you've seen the Beeston Castle, which I'll put a link to above now, that too had amazing views across the Cheshire Plains, and this too has something similar, and it's so as they can see and prepare for any onslaught, if you like, that might arise. You can see on this side of the keep there's a lot more of the skin bricks left, probably because they couldn't get to them up this side. There's another look down to where we were before, when we were looking up at the start. It's quite a long way down. Oof. So now we go inside. The actual use of the keep is really unknown. There are some people that suspect it would have been used for storage, particularly the basement. It's not that big really, but obviously it wouldn't have been an empty shell like it is today, and would have had floors. So this would be the first floor. And this is like another latrine. So you come in here and there's like a big, well, there's currently now a hole in the floor, but there would have been some, a structure there that you would sit on, do your business, and it would fall down into the gorge again. And if we look out this window, we can see the gorge below. So the business would have fallen down below, basically, and washed away with the weather. But it would also have been used for lodgings, they suspect, and place of business, because it was a prison at one point as well, where prisoners were held, and it was a court. So they think like all the court business would have been done in here. Lots of different purposes. But a keep, in traditional castle terms, was the last sort of stronghold for the soldiers to go and hold up in, If everything else failed, they would go into here and sort of like hold the keep. This would be the last place that they would go and defend. So this would have been a point where they could keep an eye on the surrounding area, just to keep an eye on things from high above, make sure they weren't being invaded. Although we talk about invasion of castles, but invasion was quite rare apparently. It did happen, but not as much as you might think. You know, we've got these big castles and we're always on the defense. It was, you know, you're talking about 1,000 years period of time, and I don't think this one was ever invaded, put it that way. But others were, clearly, in times of battle, but not as much as you might think. We just get the feeling that there's always a war going on. If you're in there's a castle there, it's all being attacked all the time and defended, but it wasn't quite as bad as that. I mean, through the War of the Roses, that was just horrific war, but that was much later than when this was built. See up higher there was a floor or a walkway around the top where they would have walked around, but that's obviously gone now because you can see where the higher windows were, and so they would have been up there. And down below, you're not supposed to go down below, I don't think. So this goes down into the basement, and I don't think you're allowed to really go down here, but I was not going to come all this way and not do it. It's quite dark, so it's hard to see the steps, and I don't think they want to. There was a sign saying, please don't go down here because of the steps and you can't see, blah, blah, blah. But I think they didn't block it off, so I think it's like, well, we told you not to go down here, so if you hurt yourself, it's your problem and not ours. But it's just intriguing to see, really interesting. Would have been the basement, and I believe there was a lot of storage. This is where the storage would have been, down here, used for storage. You can see how thick the walls were. Unbelievable. I don't understand why they built them so thick, but they did, and it was just an immense amount of stonework. And that was that, so I'll now go back up. But you'd have had a torch or torchlight back in the old days, and you would have seen where you were going quite clearly. To think that people were walking around this place, you know, over 1,000 years ago, touching the same stones that we're touching is quite unbelievable. It's really, you really get a sense of the age of the thing, really. All of these castles, they're just so ancient. And over this end there was an old chapel, of which you can see the ruins. You know, the wall outlines today still remains, just like the other buildings that were once here. It's quite sad, really. I find it quite it's quite awe-inspiring when you see these places, because of the amount of effort that was taken to build them,
and then they're just like now laying ruins. It's quite sad in a kind of way. And I was looking at this tree. I filmed this tree, and I thought, I wonder how old that is. I don't think it's 1,000 years old, but it's probably seen some of the action that was taking place here, because it looks quite old. No, it's not known for sure how old it was or is. Then we come round to the east gate again, and you know, get a nice picture, nice sort of silhouette of it from this side as well. And that's where the gate, you can see where the arch would have gone up and where the gate would have been. And when we left the castle, we made our way towards the peak Cavern, which is where the lead was being mined, and some of the stone from the cavern was used for the castle and the buildings in the castle. So it all come from around the area, if you like. And you can see that, I mean, just by walking through here, you can see the stone walls here. Were they from up above, up in the castle? I mean, it's a bit coincidental that they're all, I'm not saying they stole them, but you know, you can see where they were used. They were taken from the hill back along and used in various places. And these little cottages here were quite old. So who knows? You know, a few hundred years ago, when it was falling down, these stones probably came from up there. They look very familiar. And just going towards the cavern here, it's got a nickname called the Devil's Arse, and that's because of what it looks like when you go inside. Apparently we didn't get to go inside, but we're going to come back and we're going to go in there and film it. And it looks pretty interesting. But you can, as you come along and you look up, you can see the castle up on the top left there, on top of the cliff, and the bridge that went across would have crossed over this gorge to the other side, to go to the dwellings across the other side of the gorge. And that's how high up it was. So I'm not sure if I would like to have done that. That's a pretty scary drop, to be perfectly honest. So building that is quite a feat of engineering back in the day. But yeah, this was the long walk up to the Devil's Arse. So that's it for the castle. That's it for Peveril Castle. What I'm going to do is leave you with this little montage at the end with some pretty cool music, and I hope you enjoy it. So until next time, bye for now.